Hello and welcome to episode 29 of IOnTheTigers, a podcast all about the National Ice Hockey League, but one that always has an eye on the Telford Tigers. We'll kick off with some news from around the league. There's then plenty of results from the Christmas and New Year period to take a look at, and then we'll finish with predictions for the upcoming weekends. On the news front, news from the Tigers camp. It's a new signing. Yep, Archie Hazeldine has joined the Tigers. He's on a two-way from the Coventry Blaze. So the Tigers have bolstered the defence. Made an impact. Already got a couple of points, but perhaps we'll come on to that in just a little bit. So a strong signing there for the Tigers on a two-way. Elsewhere around the league, a couple of departures. First one is Jason Hewitt from the Steel Dogs, only stepping down as coach, so he will still be playing for them, but he has stepped down as coach. The other departure, perhaps this one generated a bit more chat, a bit more conversation, was Bailey Conger leaving the Leeds Knights. Seemed to be an interesting situation. I won't go into it any further. I'm sure you've probably seen it all on social media. It'll be interesting to see how perhaps this one plays out over the next few weeks, and whether, or more to the point, who the Knights bring in as a replacement for him. So watch this space on that. As well as departures, there have also been additions. So the Peterborough Phantoms have announced that Connor Glossop will be joining them for the rest of this season. So another forward joins the Phantoms. Cup semi-final. We now have the lineup for the Cup semi-final. Not only the four teams, but who they will be playing as well. So the Leeds Knights will be playing the Hull Seahawks in the semi-final, and in the other semi-final, the Milton Keynes Lightning will be taking on the Swindon Wildcats. A couple of interesting looking fixtures there in terms of the Lightning Wildcats. I feel quite confident in saying that the Knights are going to progress. They'll beat the Seahawks over two legs. Lightning Wildcats, I've got to admit, I am finding tougher to call. I'll go for the Lightning, but would not at all be surprised if the Wildcats were able to turn them over. I know that's not really a great prediction there. I've kind of gone for Knights and then either of the other two, but yeah, if I really have to pick one, I will go for the Lightning. Results-wise, well, there was hockey every day between and inclusive of Boxing Day through to the 1st of January. So let's get through all the results, as there's plenty to get through. So, Boxing Day, Wildcats hosted the Pitbulls. The Pitbulls are just a bogey team for the Wildcats, aren't they? Finished Wildcats 1, Pitbulls 4. Another win for Bristol over Swindon. I really don't know how they keep on doing it, but I guess they're not going to complain. Bees hosted the Raiders, and this was pretty much about as one-sided as you could get, I would say. Bees 1, Raiders 10. Could I see Raiders winning the match? Yeah, I could. Could I see them winning it by 9 goals? No, not at all. A shock result, perhaps in the sense of the scoreline, if not necessarily the result there. And to conclude the Boxing Day fixtures, Knights hosted the Sharks. It was a 3-1 win for the Sharks. Sorry, not for the Sharks. Apologies. A 3-1 win for the Knights. Leeds winning at home against the Sharks, 3-1. Just to confirm, Leeds did beat Solway. On to the 27th of December. First up, Tigers hosted the Knights. Able to collect this lovely jersey. The Christmas jersey from the Tigers, Deacon Fielder's own and loan Christmas shirt. That was perhaps as good as the night got. Tigers scored first, a really good finish from Pekka. Leeds Knights equalised, and they scored 3 more, including an empty net goal right at the end, to run out 4-1 winners at Telford. It's a good performance from the Tigers. They stayed with them. In fact, going into the third period, it was 1-1, anybody's game, but the Knights eventually were able to sort of pull clear. Kieran Brown, hugely influential. He was on the ice. It was just constant danger for the Tigers. Other results from the 27th. The Pitbulls hosted the Wildcats. They could not make it 2 from 2. That one finished Pitbulls 2, Wildcats 3. So Wildcats got their revenge on the road. Yeah. did wonder if perhaps that mini series, can you say mini series, that back to back, that double header might be split, and so it was. Perhaps home wins might have seemed more likely, but that's what's happened. Also on the 27th, Raiders hosted the Bees. Another win for the Raiders, although this one was a fair bit closer. They only won 5-2 on the 27th. Phantoms hosted the Lightning. This one took overtime to separate them, but the Lightning picked up a 5-4 win on the road. Really big and important victory for the Lightning there to be able to beat the Phantoms, I would say. And the final game on the 27th, the Sharks hosted the Seahawks. Another game that took overtime to separate the two teams. Again, it finished 5-4. Difference being this time it was the home team that took the 2 points. So Solway Sharks 5, Hull Seahawks 4. On to the 28th of December. Steel Dogs hosted the Tigers. Steel Dogs took lead in the first period. Tigers scored 4 unanswered goals in the second period, which the Steel Dogs managed to do in the third. They scored 4 unanswered goals to run out 5-4 winners. Notable for some penalties. A lot of Tigers fans weren't happy with some of the calls, the decisions. Pekka got kicked out of the game for slew footing. Big call. I was only watching on the stream, but the commentators initially were calling tripping, and they seemed quite surprised by it. There was also a situation towards the start of the third period where a number of penalties got dished out. I was surprised that the Tigers were on a 5-on-3 penalty kill, I think is what I would say. Yeah, Crow the netminder, he sort of skated over and sort of everything seemed to follow from there. Nick Oliver picked up 5 minutes for fighting, as did one of the Steel Dogs players, but he had 2 Steel Dogs players around him, so yeah, interesting call, I think is perhaps what I'll say there. However, regardless of quality of the calls or not, ultimately it's not referees, it's not linesmen who are responsible for clearing pucks right in front of the netminder. That's sort of there with the defence. So I think we could have perhaps helped ourselves a little bit there with some clearances at times. Also on the 28th, Lightning hosted the Phantoms. It didn't require overtime to separate them, but again, fairly close. Finished 7-5 to the Lightning. On the 29th of December, the Wildcats hosted the Seahawks. This was a fairly comprehensive win for the Wildcats. Wildcats 8, Seahawks 3, and that was the game that clinched their place in the semi-final of the Cup. On to the 30th, full set of fixtures. Telford travelled all the way up to Solway. It was worth the journey. A win, hooray! Long overdue. And not only a win, but a shutout as well to boot. So Sharks 0, Tigers 3. A great win on the road there for the Tigers and much needed. Pitbulls hosted the Bees. Pitbulls won 4-2. Bees definitely seem to be in a bit of a slump and just not picking up results at the moment. Wildcats hosted the Lightning, and it was a 5-3 win for the Wildcats on home ice over the Lightning, so a good win for them. Knights hosted the Steel Dogs, and that one finished 5-1 to the Knights. And finally, Raiders 4, Phantoms 2. That was a bit of a surprise result for me. I was definitely expecting the Phantoms to go and win that one, but no, the Raiders pulled something out there. On to New Year's Eve. The Bees hosted the Pitbulls, and the Bees were able to get a win this time, 7-4 on home ice. Steel Dogs hosted the Knights. It finished Steel Dogs 3, Knights 9. And the Seahawks hosted the Sharks, and that one finished Seahawks 3, Sharks 4. A really good away win there for the Solway Sharks. Seahawks just struggling to pick up results over the festive period, I would say. And then, New Year's Day. Lightning hosted the Wildcats. It was time for a bit of revenge for the Lightning as they ran out 5-1 winners. And last but certainly not least, Phantoms hosted the Raiders. There was to be no repeat, so the Raiders didn't win a second time. However, it did require penalty shots to separate them. the Phantoms coming out on top to record the win. In terms of result from the festive period, I think I have got to go for perhaps it's a tie between the Raiders beating the Phantoms, albeit that on home ice, or the Sharks travelling to the Seahawks and picking up the win there. Upcoming fixtures. So for this weekend, we start on Thursday evening with the Seahawks hosting the Steel Dogs. Ordinarily, I'd be going Seahawks, but they are struggling at the moment. But despite their struggles, I think they are going to beat the Steel Dogs. So the Seahawks to win on home ice against the Steel Dogs. On to the Saturday's fixtures. We'll kick off with the Tigers. Tigers playing at home on Saturday night. They host the Seahawks. I'm going to go for the Tigers to win at home against the Seahawks. Sharks host the Pitbulls. Big game down towards the bottom of the table. Sharks are going to win that one. They'll win on home ice. Knights host the Phantoms. Knights to win this one, but it's going to be quite close. No more than 2 goals in it is my prediction. Lightning host the Steel Dogs. Lightning to win. And Wildcats host the Raiders. Yep, granted, Raiders did well in beating the Phantoms on home ice and running them close in Peterborough, but I'm going to go for the Wildcats to win that one reasonably comfortably as well. Sunday night, a few fixture reversals. So the Seahawks host the Tigers. I'm going to go for a shared weekend on this one. So I think the Seahawks are going to win on home ice. So a win apiece for those two over the weekend. Both teams winning on home ice. Sharks host the Pitbulls. The Sharks are going to win that one as well. So they'll win both times against the Pitbulls. Phantoms host the Knights. This one is going to go to overtime, and the Knights are going to take it in overtime. So the Phantoms will get a point on the Sunday night at home. Bees host the Wildcats. Wildcats will win that one. And Steel Dogs host the Raiders. I think it's the Raiders to win that one. I think the Raiders are going to do it. Maybe it'll require overtime, but the Raiders will win that one. So, those are my predictions for the upcoming weekend. As always, feel free to get in contact, leave me a comment, share your thoughts about what you think the results will be or how good or otherwise you think my predictions are. Looking forward to hearing from you. Bye for now.